What if the reason your life hasn't changed isn't your circumstances, your income, your luck, but the people you've refused to see clearly? Winners don't see the world the way you were taught to see it. They were never handed a manual. They learned through pattern recognition, through betrayal, through watching people repeat the same cycles decade after decade. And somewhere along the way, they made observations, quiet, uncomfortable, ruthless observations, about human nature that most people will never dare to admit out loud. This isn't pessimism. This isn't cynicism. This is clarity. And clarity, when you finally stop running from it, is the most liberating thing you will ever possess. By the end of this, you will see something you cannot unsee. And that is exactly the point. There is a concept in social psychology called impression management, first formalized by sociologist Erving Goffman in 1959. His central argument was this: most human behavior is performance. People are actors on a stage, constantly adjusting their words, their posture, their opinions based on who is watching. Goffman called it the presentation of self in everyday life. 60 years later, behavioral researchers at Stanford confirmed what Goffman suspected, that the majority of people spend more cognitive energy managing how they appear than they do making actual decisions about what they want. Winners notice this early. They watch someone complain about their job for 3 years and never quit. They watch someone claim to want a relationship but sabotage every connection. They watch someone post quotes about discipline at 6 in the morning while sleeping until noon. The observation isn't cruel, it's diagnostic. What winners understand is that most people have confused signaling with doing. They have adopted an identity, the hustler, the spiritual seeker, the good parent, the loyal friend, and they protect that identity with incredible energy while quietly avoiding the actual behaviors the identity demands. Look at how this plays out in real life. A 2019 study published in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who frequently talk about their goals are statistically less likely to achieve them. The researchers concluded that verbalizing a goal creates a premature sense of completion. The brain registers the social approval of announcing the goal and releases a small reward, making action feel less urgent. Winners don't talk about the book. They write it. They don't announce the diet. They're 3 months in before anyone notices. And here is where this observation becomes dangerous to your relationships. When you stop performing and start moving, the people around you who are still performing will feel threatened. Not because they dislike you, but because your reality disturbs their illusion. The first harsh observation winners make is this: most of the people in your life are managing an image, not building a life. And until you see this clearly, you will take their applause too seriously and their silence too personally. Here is something the neuroscience community doesn't publicize enough. The human brain is not wired for achievement. It is wired for survival, and survival favors the known over the unknown every single time. Dr. Antonio Damasio, a neuroscientist at USC, spent decades studying decision-making. His research revealed that people almost never make rational decisions. They make emotional decisions and then construct rational explanations afterward. And the most powerful emotion driving daily decisions is not ambition or fear of failure. It is the preservation of comfort. Winners observe this and they stop blaming people for their stagnation. They understand it is neurological. They understand that the mind is a machine that has been optimized over hundreds of thousands of years to stay inside the cave. But here is the cruel part, and this is what separates observation from empathy. Winners also notice that most people have weaponized their own comfort against themselves. They have built lives so carefully padded with routine, distraction, and mild sedation that genuine change has nowhere to enter. And then on a random Tuesday night, they feel an ache they cannot name, a suspicion that something important is being missed, and they immediately reach for their phone, their drink, their familiar complaint. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who developed the concept of flow, documented this in thousands of interviews. He found that people consistently reported higher happiness during challenging tasks than during leisure, but they consistently chose leisure. He called this the paradox of work. People are happier doing hard things but spend their lives avoiding them. Winners see this clearly. They felt it themselves. The difference is they stopped negotiating with comfort. They learned to use discomfort as data, as a signal pointing toward where growth is waiting. The second harsh observation is this: most people are not victims of their circumstances. They are hostages of their own nervous system, and they have made peace with the ransom. This one will cost you something to hear. In 2010, researchers at the University of British Columbia ran a study on social alliances. They wanted to understand how people decide who to support during conflict. What they found was uncomfortable. Loyalty between peers shifts based on social cost, not moral conviction. In plain terms, people stand by you when it is easy. When it becomes expensive, most leave. Winners don't discover this through philosophy. They discover it through experience. The business partner who disappears when the funding runs out. The friend who becomes distant after a promotion. The person who preached loyalty for years and chose silence at the moment it actually mattered. This observation is not about becoming bitter. Marcus Aurelius, arguably history's most tested Stoic, wrote in his private journal, Meditations was never meant to be published, that people will obstruct you in your proper work, but they cannot impede your will. He understood after decades of governing an empire that expecting unconditional loyalty was a form of delusion. The people who most loudly announce their loyalty are often the least capable of sustaining it, because genuine loyalty doesn't announce itself. It shows up at 3 in the morning. It costs something. It says the difficult thing when the easy thing would preserve the friendship. Winners observe who shows up when there is nothing to gain. They note who disappears when they stop being useful. And then, critically, they do not hold it against those people with rage. They simply adjust the weight they place on certain relationships. This is not coldness. This is clarity with compassion. You can love someone and still understand their limits. You can appreciate someone and still stop handing them your most vulnerable plans for safekeeping. The third harsh observation: loyalty in most people is a function of proximity and benefit. Accept this, stop performing shock when it proves true, and you will waste far less grief on people who were never capable of what you needed them to be. This is the observation that gets the most resistance. And resistance, as any therapist will tell you, is usually a sign that something true is landing. In 2008, social psychologist Richard Smith published a landmark study on Schadenfreude, the experience of pleasure at another's misfortune. What his research revealed was not that people are monsters. It's that comparison is the default operating system of the human ego, and when someone in your peer group succeeds, the brain interprets it as a relative loss for the self. People don't consciously want you to fail, but they experience a quiet, involuntary relief when you do. This is why the people most likely to subtly undermine you are not strangers. They are the ones close enough to feel the comparison most acutely. The college friend who makes a cutting joke about your business idea. The family member who emphasizes all the reasons it probably won't work. The coworker who never quite acknowledges a win. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2011 found that people feel more threatened by peers who succeed in areas they care about than by high-status strangers. A billionaire's success doesn't disturb you. Your neighbor's new car does. Winners don't broadcast this observation. They use it as armor. They stop seeking validation from people in their proximity. They stop waiting for the lunch table to applaud. They understand that the people most likely to celebrate you are those who have no reason to compare themselves to you, mentors above you, strangers who found you through your work, people who want what you have but see the path and not the threat. The fourth harsh observation: the closer someone is to your social circle and the more similar your starting point, the more complex their feelings about your success will be. This is not evil. It is human. But wisdom means you stop feeding your ambition to people who are biologically motivated to mute it. The most uncomfortable observation of all, and the one that took the longest to accept. Psychologist James Prochaska spent decades studying behavioral change. His trans-theoretical model, now taught in every graduate psychology program, concluded that at any given moment, only roughly 20% of people are in a stage of active preparation for change. The rest are in pre-contemplation. They have not yet decided that change is necessary. Read that again. 80% of people at any given moment are not moving toward change. And the research shows that a significant portion of them will cycle through the same problems, the same relationships, the same financial patterns, the same health crises, for the rest of their lives. Winners accept this not with contempt, but with a hard peace. You cannot want someone's growth more than they do. You cannot drag someone into clarity they haven't chosen. You cannot save someone from a pattern they have not yet identified as a prison. And the moment you make someone else's change your responsibility, you have transferred your energy from your life to theirs, and both suffer for it. Seneca wrote, "A man cannot be well who is sick in his soul, and a physician cannot heal the one who does not know they are ill." The fifth and final harsh observation: most people will not change. This does not make them bad people. It makes them human. Your job is not to rescue them. Your job is to build a life so clear, so precise, so aligned with what you actually value, that it becomes the proof that change is possible for the rare person watching who has finally decided they are ready. If this reached something in you, if one of these observations named something you have felt but never had language for, then you are already operating at a different level of self-awareness than most people ever reach. This channel exists for people like that. Every week, we go deeper into the psychology of performance, discipline, and human nature, the kind of content that makes you think for 3 days. If that is what you are here for, subscribe. Leave a comment with the observation that hit you hardest. The conversation in the comments is always worth reading. There is a version of you that has already made these observations, that has already seen the performance, the comfort addiction, the conditional loyalty, the quiet envy, the permanence of most people's patterns. That version of you is waiting on the other side of one decision, the decision to stop being surprised by human nature and start building your life around what is actually true. Stoicism was never about detachment. It was about precision, seeing things as they are, not as you wish they were, and then, and only then, deciding what to do. Most people will hear these observations and feel a flicker of recognition, and then return to exactly where they were. But some of you will not. You already know which one you are. SEOTAGS. Stoicism, dark psychology, Sigma mindset, winner mindset, human nature psychology, high-performance mindset, harsh truths, Stoic philosophy, dark psychology secrets, wealth mindset, self-improvement 2026, manipulation awareness, mental strength, behavioral psychology, cold hard truth description. Most people will never tell you what they actually observe about human nature. Winners do, and it changes everything. In this video, we break down the 5 harsh observations high performers make about the people around them. Why most people are performing instead of living, how comfort becomes a self-imposed prison, the truth about loyalty that nobody wants to hear, the psychology behind why people quietly want you to fail, and the stoic acceptance that most people will never change. These aren't opinions. They're backed by research from Irving Goffman, Antonio Damasio, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, Richard Smith, and James Prochaska, translated into the brutal clarity that dark psychology and stoic philosophy demand. If you're serious about high performance, winner mindset, and understanding human nature at a deeper level, this one is for you. Timestamps: 0000 hook 00, 45 observation 1, the performance trap 03, 30 observation 2, the comfort weapon 06, 15 observation 3, the loyalty illusion 09, 00 observation 4, quiet envy 11, 45 observation 5, the unchanging majority 13, 00 final thought stoicism, dark psychology, sigma mindset, wealth mindset, human psychology.